Have you ever felt completely unqualified for a task? Like you're the last person anyone should pick for a huge, life-changing job? That's exactly how Moses felt. Imagine this: you're a shepherd, living a quiet life, and suddenly, you're told to go stand before the most powerful man in the world, the Pharaoh of Egypt, and tell him to let your people go. Sounds like a movie plot, right? Well, for Moses, this was his reality. After his dramatic encounter with the burning bush, where God gave him this monumental mission, Moses was, understandably, hesitant. He had a speech impediment, he was a wanted man in Egypt, and he felt totally inadequate. He even told God, "Who am I that I should go to Pharaoh?" But God's plan was bigger than Moses' doubts. He wasn't just sending Moses, he was going with him. And he gave Moses a partner, his brother Aaron, who could speak eloquently for him. So, armed with a staff and a whole lot of divine courage, Moses and Aaron returned to Egypt. Standing in the grand courts of Pharaoh, they delivered the message, "Thus says the Lord, the God of Israel, let my people go." How do you think Pharaoh reacted? He basically laughed in their faces. "Who is the Lord, that I should obey his voice and let Israel go? I do not know the Lord, and moreover, I will not let Israel go." Pharaoh wasn't just defiant, he was arrogant. To him, Moses and Aaron were just a couple of troublemakers stirring up his workforce. In fact, Pharaoh doubled down. He made life even harder for the Israelite slaves. He told them they still had to make the same number of bricks, but now they had to gather their own straw. It was a cruel and impossible task designed to crush their spirits. The people were exhausted and angry, and they turned on Moses, blaming him for making things worse. At this point, Moses must have felt completely defeated. He went back to God and said, "Why have you brought this trouble on your people? You haven't rescued them at all." This is such a human moment, isn't it? When you step out in faith, and things immediately get worse, it's so easy to question everything. But this was all part of the process. God was about to show his power in a way that no one, not the Israelites, not Moses, and certainly not Pharaoh, could ever ignore. This initial confrontation, this moment of no, was just the opening act. It was setting the stage for a series of incredible events that would demonstrate God's sovereignty over the most powerful empire on earth. What Pharaoh saw as a simple power play was actually a divine setup. He thought he was in control, but he was just a character in a story much bigger than himself. This initial failure wasn't the end for Moses. It was the true beginning of his journey as a deliverer. It was a test of his faith and a prelude to the mighty plagues that would eventually break Pharaoh's will and lead to one of the greatest liberation stories ever told. It reminds us that sometimes, the biggest no's we face are us paving the way for a much bigger, more powerful yes. So, what happens next? How does a shepherd's staff become a tool of divine power? How does God answer Pharaoh's defiant question, "Who is the Lord?" Stay with us as we dive into the incredible plagues of Egypt in our next video. It's a story of power, faith, and a God who hears the cries of his people. You won't want to miss it. Thanks for watching, and be sure to subscribe so you don't miss the next part of this amazing story. See you then.